Hey class, I just wanted to say hello. This is me recording this video before I go to New York, but I will be sure to send you all pictures. I'm up real late tonight, so I'm gonna do this in one take, see how it comes out. But I hope you're with me. Hope you're able to hang. What I want to do today, or what you should be doing today, is watch this video to identify the different proficiency scale criteria in a story so that you can make choices as an author and so that you're actually of use to yourself and your classmates when it comes to like grading and assessing each other's stories. Now, if you look at your proficiency scale, you'll see these level two criteria. Um, and I'm going to point some of these out as we go along. Uh, I'm going to be reading or making note of Mentor Text 4, which you read today, Monday. Um, so we're standing in a rough circle on a crumbling sidewalk outside the Sportsman Bar, spitting now and again and cursing this teacher or that teacher and drinking Green River. Green River is liquor. Um, Now someone pulls a can of Copenhagen, and Copenhagen is a brand of chewing tobacco that some of my students from New York used to use, and then they would get suspended. Think of it like the vape, but it ruins your teeth. And packs it tight with a quick flick of his wrist and passes it around, and we all take some because we are, more than anything else, trying to act cool. Though, being so far from everything we see on television, so far out of the prairie that most of us can't get more than one television station, none of us is sure what cool is. So notice that contradiction, and that helps to develop a character's complexity. That's part of this very first one. Um, we're mostly boys, save Leah, Ola's younger sister, who wears her Wranglers tight and her strawberry hair in curls around her face. And I have a terrible crush on Leah, so I'm trying to act the coolest of all, which means I am standing unnaturally still and saying next to nothing. But now the door of the Sportsman swings wind, and the little bell clanging, and old Ed Barlasucci, huh, it's an Italian name, but it has the word bar in it, steps drunkenly out into our circle. He stands there a moment and grins, wheezes, lights a cigarette. Smoke slips out from between his lips. The, the rockets out the wing-like nostrils of his rose. Huh, I don't know. Maybe it feels like a typo, but I'm having trouble with that sentence. If I was writing, I'd want to revise that. I know Ed the way I know most everybody in town, which is to say, I have maybe, in my entire life, said one or two words to him. But I know that he was a star football player in high school, that his youngest son was knifed in a bar fight and thrown in the Yellowstone River years ago, that after drinking for weeks on end, he'll sometimes see snakes crawling all over him and he'll yell and slap and thrash, though there's nothing here. And that's not super subtle. Snakes is a very specific animal there. Just in here, we also know like the word no appears, then the word no over here, and then it's a list of things that is certain knowledge. That said, then it's combined with this image of a snake. So we have the word no repeated, the word snake, and all of this is in a group of children standing outside a bar, but like not able to cross that threshold like adults can. That's just what I'm noticing as a reader. So like that continued here to generate, details that develop a character's complexities, but also that really set up like the mood and the meaning. Um, we also notice some repeated or important objects in there that might like give us a clue as to what the story is about, like the theme, not the literal "this is what it's about," but like the metaphorical, the abstract truth. Um, Now let's keep going. Oh, and I forgot to mention, most important of all, death. We have his youngest son knifed in a bar fight. So that's Ed, with his saloon lazy eyes and gin sloppy smile, the ridiculous way he lets light his cigarette ride his shifting lips, never taking it between his fingers, never ashing it, just drawing the smoke in, and that word smoke appears again. And now Ole is grinning, getting ready to poke some fun at drunk old Ed. And Leah, her hair slick and shining in the glare of the town's one buzzing streetlight. Notice how she's like covered in light here. It's like a it's like an angel almost, but she never talks, is grinning as well, looking from Ole to Ed and back again to Ole. And this means, I am sure, that I have no chance with her. As long as things were boring and ordinary, I had some hope, for then, I'd imagined anyway, I might have stood out. My almost good looks, my quiet thoughtfulness, my long suffering but noble adoration of her. This guy has this like fantasy in his head that's not necessarily reality. Um, so he has this like imagination where he doesn't actually know, or he's not actually knowing reality. He's only knowing what he wishes to be true. So we have this like juxtaposition of like her being like idolized almost, but that's juxtaposed with the reality of her where she's about to laugh at somebody making fun of somebody who's, it sounds like really sad drinking. Um, hey, Barstoolie, Oli calls. See any snakes lately? And we have the repetition of snakes again. Barstoolie is a nickname and not a nice one for somebody who's drinking. And notice here, he's making fun of Ed and about how Ed deals with the knowledge of his son's death. We have Barstoolie, again, referencing an adult activity as opposed to children, and the references to snakes. And I'm starting to think, like, with this innocence to knowledge and light and dark motif, we have snakes as an allusion to Satan and the Garden of Eden, because that has to do with like losing innocence. And that seems like it's developing something, but I'm not totally sure yet. Nope, Ed says and smacks his lips. But a drawbridge went up on me the other day, and sploosh, I was in the river. Always the first to laugh. He points right at Ed and laughs. I laugh too. We all do. Ed just turns in the circle of us and says, now you green little nutters remember what to do if you get hungry out there on the prairie. You remember, right? We shake our heads. Hell, you eat a cow pie and chew on a sagebrush, he says, and smoke billows from his half-open mouth. He looks more than drunk. He looks unmoored, lost, drowned. But I guess it's hilarious, because we were still laughing, saying, sounds good, Ed. Will do. You bet. And by the way, cow pie is a euphemism for cow poop, and I guess it's hilarious. He doesn't know, but he's like guessing. He's assuming. Um, and I want to draw your attention to this word, and this is important. In literature, pay attention to the buts. And that's because the buts are really like indications that something's about to change, something's about to shift. And that's another important thing up here, where here, whoops, this one, where it develops changes in setting. The change in tone, like at some point in your story, if you're doing grade level writing, the tone of the story should change. But now Ed stops turning. He's staring right at me. What the hell are you doing here, boy? Out here with me in the peanut gallery. You ought to be home studying or something. Well, what the hell? I don't say anything. I'm trying to watch Ole, to take my cues from him and somehow play this all off as part of the joke, but Ed moves in even closer to me. I can't see around him. His breath is hot and vinegary. I grin, hoping that everyone thinks this is somehow funny. I'm serious, boy, Ed says, straightening up, snapping his cigarette to the gravel. I knew your father. I know your mom. Talk about a good man and a lady. You got to do right by them, right by yourself. He says this and blows smoke out of his nose and steps back into the bar. Now, that butt, suddenly he gets real serious. He's not joking and talking about cow poop anymore and how, like, if you're lost in the prairie, you got to eat cow poop, because he's messing with the kids as well, because they'll just keep laughing. It's weird how Ed is doing the same thing that they think they're doing to him, but they don't get it. Well, what the hell? And we have the word hell here repeated. And the repetition of hell there is a lot like that snake and the devil and like that story of Adam and Eve, and how um, there's something that there's some point in our lives where we eat the apple, we have knowledge of death. And Ed has that. But I don't think Ed is the only person in this story. If you read this carefully, I'm serious, boy, Ed says, straightening up, snapping a cigarette to the gravel. Notice here how he just extinguished or killed the cigarette. I knew your father. I know your mom. And past tense, his dad's not around anymore. So notice in here, these sentences get much, much closer together. Everything here, but Ed stops turning. He's staring right at me. And everything here is a pretty short sentence. Like earlier, there's words like because, there's words, there's like setup, punchline. Um, there's other words like and. There's sentences that are long and like this one here. As long as this is all one sentence, it looks yeah. There's like these long, flowy sentences, but then when Ed starts getting serious, the pace changes. Everything is real short and quick and to the point, and those are strategies um, that vary the pace and tone. They indicate that shift. So in your story, when the important thing happens and things are about to move quickly to some kind of epiphany or a light bulb moment, use short sentences. It works. Um, we also notice like that repetition of knowing or knowledge and the snake and the smoke because smoke obscures things. Um, those are places that like might stir emotion, like change the mood, or at the very least help us to see the mental images. Um, it's clear that there are subtle symbols and metaphors through those details. And using euphemisms, messing with the pacing, using imagery, using these things, dialogue beats, tags, there's clearly some kind of theme building here. This is a writer who's using, not just saying what these mean, but using these literary techniques. So in order to like do grade level writing, you have to do all of this. And then you have to do this. Use precise words and phrases, relevant descriptive details, and sensory language to develop a theme in a story that has well-developed characters whose interactions build tension and change over time. Now, because you only have the space of one moment, it's easier to have just two or three characters talking. Don't get super convoluted. Just keep it simple. Focus on that one moment. Um, in this story, the setting, plot, and characters are precisely and vividly described. They use those narrative techniques. The dialogue, particularly when Ed says but and shifts tone, really conveys that moment's significance, even though the speaker doesn't really reply because he can't. He doesn't know. And that word knew is really where this hinges. Um, because that significance of you have lived some of what I have lived. What are you doing here making fun of me? Do better. And that's what Ed's saying. And Ed's saying that like blitzed out of his mind, right? But this last part, a clear theme is developed using precise words and phrases, relevant details, and sensory language. This story just ends right after the epiphany. Right by, you got to do right by them, right by yourself. But before that, the character doesn't know what right is. So it's here where he's saying, what are you doing? Stop messing around. Stop hanging out with your friends and just getting trashed. Um, it's time to like, sorry, I was just checking to see if the thing worked. Um, wow, I really hope this recording saves. Otherwise, that would suck. Um, but like this clear theme being developed, like Ed just gave this moral lesson while killing the light of his cigarette. He extinguished this like light of knowledge and showed the kid, the speaker, how ignorant he actually is. He's not like you're still just messing around, like imagining yourself loving this girl who doesn't know you exist. Um, this knowledge after like we learn about death, he repeats the word no and new. That past tense of new means the speaker has that, but he hasn't accepted it. He's still trying to be innocent, but he can't. And that's why I think the speaker's not relating to his peers. He's just acting to fit in because they're innocent. He has knowledge of death, and you can't go back. His friends are in this paradise that he's trying to join, but he's filled with these insecurities that just make him not say anything, but act a certain way. Um, and that's a painful realization when you realize that you've outgrown your friends. And that's the theme that this is talking about. We all hit that point where we outgrow the people around us. Some of you will likely hit it this year. Um, and that's where like this story does do all of these things. It also does some of the 4.0 stuff. It also like clearly touches on a social issue here. Let me just quickly copy and paste because I didn't actually prepare this one. Um, it clearly touches on a social issue here. It doesn't quite employ a parallel plot line or incorporate multiple points of view, but it alcoholism as a way of dealing with grief and is a social issue. It incorporates drug and substance use, nicotine as a drug, um, to comment on this social issue of like how we deal with stuff. We bury it until we can't anymore. So this story would get like a 3.5. It would get like a mid A because it incorporates some of these, but not all of them. And I will tell you, it's incredibly difficult to do all of these. But what you should focus on now is notice these in your story and then trades. Like if you don't see them, ask yourself, where do I have an opportunity to like imitate the mentor text? Starting tomorrow, I'm going to ask that you read each other, sorry, on the block day, I'm going to ask that you read and trade stories with each other. I'm also going to set up a GimKit game that kind of hopefully works as an assessment for these in case I don't see all of them in your story. That should be able to like help your grade a little bit. Um, yeah. So hey, have fun writing and like don't be afraid to try stuff. No writer knows, and if this was published like this, it's published with some sentences I wouldn't have wanted to publish it with. I didn't write this one. But writing is never due, it's just done. And we never know what's going to come out until we try. So when in doubt, like try a thing, imitate some of the sentences here, imitate like the way Ed talks here to like right here, imitate the very like quick switch in tone and just see how that works in your story. Keep in mind, you can pick any of the ones you wrote from the previous mentor text or the one that we worked on in class separate from those. It's totally up to you. But good luck. Have fun. I miss you guys. Bye.